Good afternoon, everybody. Today, I would like to explain why the right to repair would not only benefit consumers, but the manufacturers, sellers, and the environment alike. My name is Ellie Archinal, and I will explain to you how e-waste is dangerous for the environment and human health. According to Geneva Environment Network, e-waste, electronic waste, e-scrap, and end-of-life electronics are terms often used to describe used electronics that are nearing the end of their useful life. They are then discarded, donated, or given to a recycler. Based off the UN information, e-waste is any discarded product with a battery or plug and features toxic and hazardous substances such as mercury that can pose severe risk to human and environmental health. E-waste is toxic and causes a host of harmful effects on human health. This is seen in how it is not biodegradable and accumulates in the environment, in the soil, the air, water, and in living things. This means that it is getting into the food we eat and the water we drink and bathe in. For example, when open air burning and acid baths being used to recover valuable materials from electronic components release toxic materials leaching into the environment. These practices can also expose workers to high levels of contaminants such as lead, mercury, beryllium, thallium, cadmium, and so on. And these can all lead to irreversible health effects, including cancers, miscarriages, and neurological damage and diminished IQs. So what this means is when e-waste is being discarded, it is affecting the people discarding it, it is affecting the people in the third world countries where we most often send our recycling to, and then is causing very great harm to the people dealing with the aftermath of the discarded e-waste. So e-waste also is noted to contribute to climate change. Also, according to the Geneva Environment, it is worth considering the effects electronic goods have on climate change. Every device ever produced has a carbon footprint and is contributing to human-made global warming. Manufacturers, a ton of laptops and potentially 10 tons of CO2 are emitted. When the carbon dioxide released over a device's lifetime is considered, it predominantly occurs during production, before consumers buy the products. This makes lower carbon processes and inputs at the manufacturing stage and product lifetime key determinants of overall environmental impact. So what this means is that although devices do release carbon dioxide, they most often release that carbon dioxide while they are being made. So the right to repair would affect positively the environment because it would be taking out many of the productions which are emitting the carbon dioxide. Along with the environment and human health risks, right to repair would enhance cybersecurity. According to Paul F. Roberts of Belmont, Massachusetts, properly implemented right to repair laws actually do promote device security rather than undermining it. That's because maintaining deployed devices after manufacturers have walked away from the table or gone out of business is critical to maintaining a healthy Internet of Things ecosystem. Right to repair laws create the conditions under which such an aftermarket repair ecosystem can flourish. So while it might be arguable, at the end of the day, the right to repair would be better for the environment, for people all across the world, not only America, and for cybersecurity. Therefore, it could be seen that we have a moral obligation to positively impact the environment of the world and the people that we are impacting by using the right to repair in other places who do not get to vote. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name's Anna Geller, and I'm on the negative side of the right to repair. And I have a couple questions to my opponent. My first one is, are you aware that according to Science Direct, e-waste makes up only 1.4% of global greenhouse gas emissions?
I was not aware of that.
My second question is that you mentioned side effects of these toxins. Do you have an exact number of victims this has happened to, or are you just saying it could cause cancer or any of the other side effects you mentioned?
These substances being produced are known scientifically to produce cancer as well, but I do not have an exact number for you today.
According to my opponent, she would have you believe that the right to repair would lead to some form of global warming, but according to my research, the National University of Singapore conducted a study in 2023 whose results showed that a higher price hurts consumers, but it does not necessarily benefit the environment. In spite of people possibly buying new products, easier repair could lead to more consumers to use old, energy inefficient products, resulting in a higher environmental impact. While e-waste currently does not make up a shocking amount of greenhouse gas emissions, the right to repair will merely encourage companies to remain stagnant rather than innovate on ways to sell new and more eco-friendly objects. Another point I want to touch on is that the right to repair will increase prices. Yuli Yang, a professor of California, wrote that the right to repair legislation is introduced, independent repair costs start to fall, and manufacturers are likely to lower the prices of their new products in order to entice customers away from the right repair option. However, a continual price cut would eventually leave the profit margin too thin. If independent repair were widely available, products would have a longer lifespan, which makes them more valuable. Manufacturers would have the incentive to take advantage of that increased value. In fact, they are likely to switch tacks and raise new product prices while offering free repair services, similar to what happens in the high production cost scenario. Third point is that manufacturers argue the right to repair is dangerous. Emily Barron, a writer for Modern Farmer, goes on to say that equipment manufacturers generally oppose right to repair legislation, and they say they have multiple concerns. Allowing farmers to repair their own tractors gives them the ability to bypass things such as emission controls and horsepower regulations. While manufacturers argue it is unsafe, they have also argued that making these documents widely accessible could lead to exposing trade secrets. She's basically stating that manufacturers are against the right to repair laws because they could be dangerous. They worry that allowing people to fix their own equipment might lead to bypassing safety regulations and exposing trade secrets.
I would like to ask if you have examples of the companies or if this is based on wishful thinking.
I'm glad you asked. Recently, in March of 2024, according to Stephanie Cole from The Roundup, whose organization's mission is to promote environmental awareness and sustainability, said Apple has also vowed to reduce its carbon footprint by using green energy for all of its data centers by early next year. They recently announced they are now carbon neutral.
Thank you. To continue with what I'd like to share, states do agree on the Right to Repair Acts. According to Laura Lowry, 28 states voiced support for federal right to repair legislation. In 2023, it was noted that 28 state attorney generals have banded together to support right to repair, federal legislation to ensure small automobile businesses and mom and pop shops can remain competitive against a closed system favored by original equipment manufacturers, or OEMs. In letters written to the U.S. House Energy and Commerce Committee and the Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation, there was a request that the lawmakers redouble their efforts to pass the legislation. The right to repair is a bipartisan issue that impacts every consumer, household, and farm in a time of increasing inflation. That is a direct quote from the letter, including, it is about ensuring that consumers have choices as to who, where, when, and at what cost their vehicles can be repaired. As can be seen, consumers do want the right to repair, And this is also shown in Elaine S. Povich's 2023 writing, which explains how the tech industry is skirting right to repair legislation. A Consumer Reports survey conducted in 2021 found that 84% of the U.S. adults polled said they agreed with a policy that would require manufacturers to repair information and parts available either to independent repairers or product owners. So what this all means when looked at as a whole is that because we live in a democracy, we do have a right as people to have a say in the right to repair and whether we want it or not. And based off the research just provided to you by Laura Lowry and Elaine Espovich, it is clear that our country is wanting the right to repair, and we have a right to that.
While my opponent has stated some very good points today, is it ethical to allow consumers to choose based on their desire for cheaper goods rather than make an executive call to do what is best for not only the economy, but also for the safety of the consumers? Consumers who often do not understand the risk of low prices. The right to repair might not be all sunshine and rainbows. Intellectual property rights are serious business, and opening the floodgates to repair manuals could lead to a free-for-all of theft and copying. Elaine S. Povich research states that present unacceptable risks to consumer data privacy and safety, requiring manufacturers to expose critical security information and hand over the keys to unlock customers' devices. He said that the changes address the most egregious concerns. He goes on to say that we still have concerns with the final legislation signed into law. At its core, the law remains state-mandated transfer of intellectual property that is unwarranted at a time when consumers have access to more repair options now than ever before. We do not encourage other states to follow the New York's lead, he says. Based on the presented evidence, it is clear that the right to repair brings more burden than support. There is no justifiable reason to leave consumers in the dark with their ballots. If they want something, they should know the full truth about it. And the full truth of the right to repair comes with the heavy growth to climate change and constantly checking behind your electronic shoulder.
My opponent has said some very convincing and reasonable things today. I would like to conclude by wrapping this up to clarify that the right to repair is not only favored by the consumers, but is also relevant to the ongoing discussion of pollution and climate change. While there are valid discussions having been made by my opponent, it is still worth mentioning that the environment and the people that our votes and actions affect are much more important than the education which we long for. These health risks, the cybersecurity risks, and so on are all very important in this conversation, and the right to repair will impact those very positively, which is why we should use it at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.